I'm Philip Dobard.
And I'm Tracey Mitchell.
And this is Culinary Quickies, a series featuring dishes that aren't necessarily quick, but the episodes certainly are. Tracey, what are you making?
Egg sardou.
Egg sardou. That does not qualify as quick, does it?
Well, no.
Yeah, okay. Is this a Creole dish?
Yes. Yeah. It
skews Creole.
Yeah.
This is the 7th in a series of 8 episodes celebrating Cajun and Creole cuisine. There's a great deal of overlap between the two. Some dishes skew more one way, some the other. This skews Creole.
Yes, and that's because it is really much based on French cuisine. Continental. So there are processes.
All right. Traditionally, this is something you'd see in a restaurant.
Correct.
Many steps. It helps to have a team of chefs at your disposal.
Yes, but it can be done at home, and I'm here to prove it.
Indeed. Now, this dish has its roots, or it was created in the late 19th century?
Yes, in the latter quarter.
In the latter quarter of the 19th century.
In New Orleans, at Antoine's restaurant.
Antoine's restaurant.
Yes.
Very famous place, very storied place. And it's named after the French playwright Victorien Sardou.
Correct.
Okay.
Who wrote the play La Tosca,
on
which Puccini's opera Tosca is based.
All right, very good. Among my favorites, among many people's favorites. Okay, well, listen, I'm not going to waste any more of our viewers' time. I'm going to leave you to Sardou, that which you Sardou so well.
We're going to begin with the tomato reduction. So let's get some heat under this little saute pan here. We're going to add the tomatoes with some oil, and we're not using a lot of heat. The purpose of this right now is to extract the juices from the tomato and concentrate them. We'll add the seasonings and a couple of anchovy fillets and some tarragon. And we're only going to cook this for a short while and sort of mash the tomatoes down as we go. And it's done. Very aromatic. The juices have been extracted. They're concentrated now. It's a beautiful reduction. And we're going to take this off the heat now and just set it aside until we need it later. I'm not going to lie to you, it's hot in the kitchen today. So just to make it a little bit hotter, we're going to brown the diced ham. Okay. Oops. When they start jumping out at you and they start to look like bacon, you know they're ready. Get back in there. On to the creamed spinach. I'm going to go ahead and use the pan that I've already sauteed the diced ham in. That way I only have to add a tiny bit of oil, because to begin with we need to saute the onions and the garlic. We're then going to add the roux. I'm using a frozen roux that I made ahead of time, but in the recipe I will include directions on how to make your own roux. Then I'll add milk, salt, pepper, cayenne, a little more milk, nutmeg, Parmesan and Romano cheese, a little more milk, dill, and finally I will take the pan off the flame and add the spinach, because we want it to have that bright greenness, be very pretty, and still have a little bit of tooth to it because we don't want the cream spinach to be baby food. You should know that the original recipe didn't include creamed spinach, but I think it's a good addition to the recipe. And I also believe that it was probably included as a practical matter of keeping the slippery artichoke bottoms and the poached eggs on the plate while they were transported from kitchen to table, or maybe when you were taking a very eager slice. We're on to the hollandaise now. We need to separate the eggs. I keep the whites and then add them to the poached eggs so that I don't have to put whites in the refrigerator and then wonder about what else I'm going to make with them. I will combine all the yolks. I put a little salt in because the salt helps break the yolks up. So the water's rolling in the double boiler. We're going to put the top on, add the butter and melt it, and start making the hollandaise sauce. You may notice that there's extra butter because depending on the size of the eggs, you may need a little bit more butter or a little less. At this point, I have put an egg aside in case I need another egg. I'm tempering the egg yolks by adding a little heat at this point. Okay, in we go. Now, if things are happening too fast, take it off. Well, darn, they curdled. I guess I'm going to need that extra egg. If you find your eggs have curdled, add another yolk or two if you need to. And if that doesn't work, put it in the food processor. Because we're making this ahead, we're going to have to reheat this. So I'm not taking it to the full stage where it really gets thick. At this point it's kind of watery, but it will thicken up very fast. So you can't take your eyes off it or stop stirring. Right now it's cooling off enough that I can let it go. We're going to batter the asparagus spears and then we'll fry them. We're going to dry the asparagus. That's very important. Then we will make an egg batter with egg and mayo. Then we're going to dip the asparagus spears in a little bit of flour and coat them with a light dusting of the flour. Then we'll dip them in the egg batter and then we'll coat them with the breadcrumbs. And then it will be time to fry these. Now we're in the home stretch, so we're going to heat some oil in this shallow skillet and fry the asparagus spears. It won't take very long. We certainly don't want to make them limp. So we're only frying the outside, and they will continue to cook after I take them out of the oil and put them on something to capture the extra oil, and they can be cooling while we move on to the next stage. So I'm waiting for the oil to be ready. I can tell that it is because there's dimples in the surface and there's a little bit of smoke. So here we go. I'm going to experiment here with trying to get these eggs done quickly all together. I have the egg whites that were left over from making the hollandaise sauce. So I'm going to give it a stir to break them up a little bit. Don't want to whip them, I just want to break them up. So now what I want to do is put my whole eggs in this egg white. Then these will stay together, and I'll scoop them out and gently put them in our boiling water. Well, actually, we don't want it to be boiling. We want it to be hot so that it will create a nice sphere. There'll be a few whisks because some of the egg white is less thick than other parts. So anyway, by scooping it out by a spoon, we should be able to gently lower it into the hot water, and they should cook as spheres. We have boiling water here. That's too turbulent to see for our eggs to stay together, so I'm going to turn the flame down. We want the water hot but not rolling. We're going to add a tiny bit of vinegar. This will help the eggs stay together. You don't want to add too much because you don't want the eggs to taste like vinegar. You just have to be really gentle. If you're patient, it'll all work out. And if one breaks, just put it back together or get another egg. Now we're going to strain the tomato reduction. Okay, the moment has arrived. So let's assemble our egg Sardou. First, we need to frost the plate with the creamed spinach. Then we will place the artichoke bottoms in the spinach, well seeded, and then top that with the poached egg and some Hollandaise sauce. Sprinkle the top of that with the browned cubed ham and the parsley and a little bit of truffle salt. The original recipe called for truffles, but truffle salt is easier to get and far less expensive. Finally, we will put a swirl of the tomato reduction around the egg Sardou, and the pièce de résistance, we will add the fried asparagus spears to the top in a decorative assortment, and we'll be ready to have our egg Sardou.
So, here we are, eggs Sardou. All joking aside, this looks glorious. Shall I taste?
Please do. It's a mouthful.
This is wonderful. So many flavors at work, all coming together to produce this glorious, unified whole. Wonderful stuff.
I don't know if Victorien Sardou appreciated this.
Well, if he didn't, there's something wrong with him. There was something wrong with him. I see a couple of items on the table here. There's some Crystal hot sauce.
I love this.
Why did you choose Crystal rather than, say, Tabasco or another well-known hot sauce?
Well, it has very strong red bell pepper taste, but it's also sweet as well as being hot.
Okay, so a better complement to the other ingredients. Okay, very good. Also, there is some black truffle salt here, courtesy San Francisco Salt Company. So we'd like to thank them for that. Melissa's Produce. Melissa's provides all of the produce used in this series, so a big thank you to Melissa's. Find us on social media, like us on Facebook.
Subscribe
to us on YouTube, the Center for Culinary Culture. Back next week.
Yes.
More deliciousness.
Absolutely.
Until then, bye.
Bye.